All good?
The Big Bear Valley was home to the indigenous Uhaviatum, a clan of the Serranos, for about 2,000 years. These natives inhabited what they called Uhaviat, or Pine Place. The name Serrano, or Mountaineers, was given to the natives by Spanish explorers. In 1812, the entire area was rocked with repeated earthquakes, resulting in a native uprising because they thought the Great Spirit was angry with the Padres. Modern Big Bear history begins around 1845 when Benjamin Davis Wilson rode into the valley with a posse of 20 men. They were searching for suspects who had been raiding their ranches in Riverside. As they entered the valley, they found it crawling with grizzly bears. It was with this discovery that Big Bear Lake got its present-day name. It should be noted that this name referred to what is now Baldwin Lake. Today's Big Bear Lake did not exist until the late 1800s and early 1900s. Originally, Big Bear Lake was never meant to be a tourist hub. The first dam, 1884, that flooded the valley was designed to collect water for irrigation of crops in the newer Redlands agricultural areas. At the time, the dam created the largest man-made lake in the world and was, for a while, considered the eighth wonder of the world. The existing dam was completed in 1911 and multiplied the size of the lake into what it is today. Then gold was found. While tracking bear in 1860, hunter Bill Holcomb came across the valley and found a ledge of gold-riddled quartz. This young miner was William Francis Holcomb, and his discovery received the appropriate name Holcomb Valley. Holcomb Valley's principal town, Belleville, during the Civil War years, ranked second or third in population for Southern California. In addition to being a prospector, Bill Holcomb was a noted hunter, and because of the accuracy of his rifle, Holcomb was chosen to supply meat for the Bear Valley miners. It was on one of these hunting trips that Holcomb crossed over the mountains at the south side of Bear Valley and shot bears in the little valley beyond. After shooting 3 grizzlies in as many attempts, Holcomb was chagrined when his 4th shot only wounded a bear. It ran off, leaving a trail of blood. The next day, Holcomb and a companion returned to track the wounded grizzly, which they found dead a short distance away. Ever the prospector, Holcomb paused to chip at a piece of soft rock, which, to his surprise, contained sizable chunks of gold. He staked out a claim, butchered the bear, and returned to camp jubilant over his discovery. News of the find wasn't secret for long. By 1862, thousands of claims had been struck. Towns like Belleville and Clapboard thrived. At first, placer mining was the thing. Simply put, miners staked a claim, then dug down to the bedrock. Once pay dirt, black sand, was found, it was washed or sluiced in a pond of snowmelt to separate the gold from the gravel. All the mounds and knolls dotting the valley today aren't just pretty little hills. Covered with pine needles and small plants, they're actually the tailings, the dirt and rocks removed and tossed aside every which way. Remnants of the Metzger mine show the difficulty of hard rock mining. After the placer sites were all staked, prospectors looked elsewhere for treasure and found gold-bearing quartz veins in the hills. They started digging. I couldn't even stand up in the Metzger, and crawling through the horizontal passages was just backbreaking. The oldest method for extracting the gold from quartz rocks was the arastra, or ore grinder. A round rock wall surrounded a flat circle of flat, level stones. From a post in the center, a harnessed donkey or mule walked an endless circle in the arastra, pulling a heavy drag stone to crush the rock. A single load of ore took over 4 hours to process in this manner. Over 100 arastras dotted the valley. Today, about 60 wild donkeys still roam the resort area. Of course, staking a claim in the wilderness was easy, protecting it was not. An estimate of 50 murders occurred during the first 2 years of the settlement. Some outlaws, like Salt Lake's Buttons gang, dominated the valley so completely they simply occupied any cabin they wanted. But other outlaws couldn't evade justice and found themselves hugging the hanging tree. In the spring of 1860, Bill Holcomb struck gold in a high mountain valley north of today's Big Bear Lake. Word spread fast. By summer, a stampede of prospectors poured into what came to be known as Holcomb Valley, setting up tents, cabins, and mining claims. They hit pay dirt. Some called it the richest gold strike in Southern California. The mining camp that sprang up didn't stay small for long. They named it Belleville, not after some prospector or politician, but after a baby, Belle Van Dusen, the newborn daughter of Jed Van Dusen, the town blacksmith. Her mother had sewn a makeshift American flag for the 4th of July out of a miner's shirt and a red petticoat, and the miners, feeling patriotic and maybe a little sentimental, gave the town her name. Belleville boomed overnight. By the end of 1860, the town had thousands of residents. Some say more than anywhere in the county except San Bernardino. The place had everything a gold camp needed: saloons, gambling halls, blacksmith shops, general stores, butcher shops, and a dance hall called the Octagon House. Of course, with that many miners and not much law, trouble came with it. Shootouts, lynchings, and outlaw gangs made Belleville a wild place. But there was a problem. The town was rich in gold and short on everything else, especially food and supplies. The only way in was by pack mule. Wagons couldn't get through. If you wanted to bring a wagon to Holcomb Valley, you had to take it apart and haul it in pieces. So the miners did something about it. They didn't wait for the government. They scraped together about $2,000 in gold dust and hired someone they trusted, Jed Van Dusen. He was handy with tools, was already running the blacksmith shop, and knew the country. Jed built a wagon road from Belleville down the mountain toward the desert, connecting it with a new toll road through Cahan Pass, built by John Brown Sr., another early pioneer. Van Dusen's road, finished in 1861, made all the difference. Wagons could reach Holcomb Valley from San Bernardino through Cahan Pass and Dead Man's Point. Supplies started flowing in: food, lumber, mining gear, blasting powder, even whiskey for Greek George's saloon. Stagecoaches came too. What had taken a week by mule could now be done in 2 days by wagon. That road helped Belleville grow even faster. Miners brought in stamp mills to crush rock and move from panning in streams to blasting gold out of hard rock. Belleville got so bold it tried to steal the county seat from San Bernardino. In the 1860 election, it nearly succeeded. Some say it did win, but one of the Belleville ballot boxes mysteriously ended up in a bonfire. Of course, what goes up in gold country usually comes down just as fast. The easy gold dried up. The winter of 1861 to 62 was brutal. Deep snow cut off the town for weeks. Miners left. Saloons shut down and Belleville started to fade. By 1864, it was nearly a ghost town. But Van Dusen's road stuck around. Even after Belleville was gone, the road he built continued to serve the area. Ranchers used it for cattle drives, loggers hauled timber down it, and the Forest Service later turned parts into official roads and ranger stations. Today, the road still exists as Forest Service Road 3N09. Adventurous drivers can still follow the route Jed built by hand more than 160 years ago. And if you walk through Holcomb Valley, you'll find a few signs and stones where Belleville once stood, a rough mining town that burned bright and fast, and a road built by a blacksmith whose daughter gave the place its name. later years in decline, 1899 to 1940s. In 1899, after resource depletion, J. R. Delamar partnered with Baldwin to build a second 40 stamp mill. The original mill operated until 1923, with hard rock mining continuing until 1919. Various companies managed the site until the 1940s, but yields were disappointing overall. The mine's concrete foundations and headframe remnants are still visible today.